Alright, so in today's video, I'm going to be giving you the best operator tier list coming into Demon Vale in Rainbow Six Siege. Alright, so it's that time of year again where there's a new season that comes out. Every single season that comes out, I'm going to be making an operator tier list, as some operators are game breaking and completely change how the meta works. So new operators are going to be viable that weren't, and new operators are going to be not viable that were. So let's get into it. First, let's talk about Tachanka. Tachanka is okay. In my past tier list, I did put him a bit higher, but seeing as Goyo got reworked, he's not really that important to play anymore. He's a little bit too hard to play for how much value he actually brings to the table. He has 10 flame grenades, but they only last about 5 seconds. You can bounce these things and shoot them really, really far, which makes him really extremely hard to use. His gun selection is terrible. His LMG is not that good either for making rotations because of the fire rate. And overall, he's just really not that good of an operator. Compared to people that do the exact same job like Goyo or Smoke, there's really just no reason to bring him. Jager you can put in the must-pick category. Even with his gadget being nerfed constantly and his gun being nerfed, you still are going to want those grenades to not be on the table anymore. For your bandit trickers, for your Cades, for your mutes, you don't want them getting naded off of the wall. And with TSM winning Pro League and everybody seeing how good grenades are, people are starting to use grenades in the proper way a lot more, so Jager and Wamai are becoming a lot more picked. Must pick is a category for operators that can be picked every round, and honestly should be picked every round, and you can't really complain if you or your teammate brings it. Next for Kapkan, I'm going to put him in okay. Kapkan saw a huge resurgence after people started bringing him a lot more because people weren't expecting it. But now that everybody's expecting a Kapkan, especially in the lower elo, people are checking doors. And with attacker repick, after you're able to drone out a Kapkan, you can always bring an IQ or a Twitch, making him pretty much borderline useless. So I don't want to put him in the void because there is a time and a place to bring him, like in the lower elo or the first defense round. But other than that, there's just really no other place that you can put him except for okay. Sledge is a must pick to me. You can bring him every round, and honestly you should bring him every round because of the utility that he provides. He provides a sledgehammer that can break through any soft surface, and it has a seemingly endless amount of uses. You can play with him vertically, you can open up walls, you can open up hatches, you can open up doors, windows. You can break any bulletproof utility, including deployable shields, bulletproof cameras, and barbed wire. Pretty much anything. He is all around great. He brings great weapons, he brings 2 frag grenades, and is extremely easy to pick up for new players. Thatcher is a must pick for every round. He's not quite broken, as there is ways to get around him like bandit tricking, Cade tricking, Jager, Wamai, etc. But he's more of just a lazy operator. If you want to get the wall open, you don't need a Thatcher, but it's just the quickest way to do it, which is why he gets banned so often. He has arguably the best gadget in the game, as it literally just disables all defender gadgets that have electronics in them. He has very easy to use guns. His secondary gadgets are very good, and is overall an operator that no matter how much they nerf is probably going to stay at the very top of useful operators. Next, I'm going to put Valkyrie in the broken tier. Now, she did get nerfed, yes. You can only throw her cameras outside and they last 10 seconds, but it still really doesn't matter. Here's why. If you are playing Valkyrie and let's say you want to run out and kill somebody, all you have to do is wait for them to get close, and then you throw your camera out and you still have 10 seconds to see them, and then you just run out and kill them anyways. All this nerf did was make it to where you couldn't immediately throw your cameras outside after the prep phase, but because it's not 3 seconds or 2 seconds and it's 10 seconds, you still have so much time to gather information and do spawn peeks and runouts with her that it's still extremely broken. Not to mention, her cameras are still black, her cameras are still tiny, she has 3 cameras, so overall, even without the running out and spawn peeking, I would still put her in the broken category. Her cameras are so small that you can hide them anywhere, and they're so black that you can hide them anywhere, that honestly, especially if they don't have a Twitch or an IQ, she's still amazing. Before I get into my next operator, I just want to explain the situational category. The situational category is just a category where the operators are really, really good, but only in certain situations. So they're not necessarily worse than operators in okay, good, or even must pick. They just only have certain sites or bombs where they're going to be able to be useful. This being said, I want to put Castle in here. Now, Castle, especially after the Major and Pro League has been using him, he's seen a huge resurgence in pick rate and in win rate. People are starting to now understand how to play Castle correctly and when to use him, which is something that I've always tried to push in the community. And if you don't already know, I did make a castle guide. I'll put it in the top right here on how you can actually play castle to win yourself rounds and not make him as useless as everybody used to think he was. The next operator I'm going to discuss is Mira, going in the situational category. You don't want to bring a Mira every site. A really good site to bring her on would be Kitchen and Coastline, but Hookah and Coastline is a terrible Mira map because they can just shoot your Miras from the sky or from the window, and honestly, Mira can hinder you played on the wrong spots more than it can help you. Also with attacker repick, if they know you're bringing a Mira, they can just bring a Twitch, they can bring a Buck, and completely counter your Mira strats, so she isn't as good as she used to be. That being said, Mira isn't okay, she isn't good, she definitely isn't a must pick, and I'm going to throw her in the situational category. Smoke is a must pick operator. He is arguably the best time waster on defense with the best plant denial and the best amount of utility to be brought all in one operator. He brings a shotgun that can make rotates, that can make head holes, that can make holes that you can throw your smoke grenades through. He brings an SMG-11 and a deployable shield, which allows you to hold an area of the map extremely efficiently. And finally, he brings 3 smoke canisters. These smoke canisters last 10 seconds each, and if an attacker walks in them, they take damage gradually over time as they breathe in the smoke. Overall, because of that deployable shield and that shotgun, he brings so much versatility and utility to the team that putting him in must pick just fits really well. Next, I'm going to talk about Echo. Now, Echo I'm going to put in good. He's not a must pick because there are certain operators that would be better than picking Echo on certain sites, but he's not only situational and he's not okay, he's just good. Let me explain why. After Echo's drones lost their invisibility, people stopped playing him because you can just hear and see his drones very easily. But as you're seeing as a common trend here, Pro League started to play him. So really good players used him in really strategic ways, and now everybody's starting to see how good he is again. He still brings 2 cameras that can stun anybody an infinite amount of times, but you can only use it twice on a cooldown, and it can gather an insane amount of information as his drones can move. So what you're seeing a lot of people do is because his drones aren't invisible, they like to hide him in places, and then whenever the attackers are planting or need to be stunned, or you just want information in general, you move your cam outside of that place, you hop up your drone on the roof, stun the enemy, get information, whatever you need to do, and then you drive your Echo Cam away. There's a lot of people that use Mozzie drones like this. There's a lot of people that use drones in general like this. And using him in a way that you're always on his drones is the best way to use him, and that is what sticks him in the good category for me. Next, I'm going to put all the hard breachers. Ace, Thermite, Hibana, all in the must pick category. You're more than likely going to be needing to open up a wall to get in the site for every single objective, so having an Ace, a Thermite, or Hibana is really good. Maverick, also a hard breacher, also a must pick for most sites if you don't have somebody like a Thatcher to get the wall open easier. Now, honestly, I want to put him in the broken category as there's literally no counter to his gadget, but it takes a really good Maverick player to put him in the broken category. If you're just an average Maverick player that doesn't know how to Maverick trick, that gets shot through his holes, that doesn't know how to grenade through holes, then he's only really in must pick, so I'm going to stick him there for now. Next is going to be Glaz, and I'm sticking him in the needs rework category. Here's why. A lot of people really like Glaz just because nobody expects him, but if we're talking about the actual usefulness of the operator, there's always going to be better operators to bring. His entire gadget is that he can see through smokes and he can see through a long distance. That's not good enough. His gun is really bad, he provides almost no utility to the team, he's extremely selfish, and if you want a sniper to play the game with, you can always bring Callie as she actually provides utility to the team, and her sniper is a one-shot to the body. Her sniper also outlines enemies in yellow, even when she's moving, as opposed to Glaz, who only outlines enemies in yellow whenever he's standing still. So there really is no reason to ever pick him, and honestly, I think he needs to be reworked either to his old state, or they need to change his sniper and his ability to some degree. Speaking of Callie, I'm going to put her in the situational category. You're not always going to need to bring a Callie, as if you have either Thatcher or Maverick on the table, they're always going to be better options. Callie is extremely hard to play, not only because of her weapon choice, being a bolt action sniper and a really shitty SMG, but people don't know how to use her gadget correctly. What I see a lot of Callie players do is whenever their Thermite places their Thermite charger on the wall and they shoot their Callies on the wall, their Callie just destroys their Thermite, and they end up throwing by playing Callie more than they're actually helping. So what you can do is literally just play Twitch over her, literally play Thatcher, Maverick, IQ, go vertical and get the things from above. You can do anything but play Callie and still be fine, but there's only certain maps that you can really play her and her be viable, and that's why I'm sticking her in the situational category. Next, I'm going to talk about Capitão. Capitão, I actually recently got a really good appreciation for that I didn't have in my past tier list. I just made a Capitão guide last Tuesday that I'll put in the top right here, but Capitão is extremely useful if you know how to play him. Now, his skill ceiling is really high, and not a lot of players really unlock Capitão's full potential, as he can make one-way smokes and he can do really good post-plant denial. His guns are good if you know how to use them, and he brings 2 hard breaching charges that can replace any hard breachers that you don't really need. So overall, Capitão I think is personally really good and extremely underrated, but I think the reason people don't play him a lot is because he requires an extremely good amount of game sense to use him the most efficiently as possible. Next is going to be Blackbeard, who's going in the needs rework section. He provides you with the ability to not get headshot for 1, maybe 2 bullets, but that's literally it. His shields slow him down, and you can't really ever play him without hindering your team in some way because you're not playing somebody else that your team needs. They need to buff him, and honestly, I think they need to rework him completely for him to ever be viable in the game. Next, let's talk about Mute. I think if there was a category between good and must pick, that's where I'd stick him. But I'm going to put him in must pick, and here's why. If you brought a Mute every single round, your team would not complain. That is something that you're going to see with everybody that I put in must pick. Mute provides 4 Mute jammers that completely deny drones, completely deny any sort of hard breaching gadget, completely deny Dokkaebi galls, completely deny Jackal tracks, and all kinds of other attacker utility like attacker secondary gadgets. He also provides a shotgun and an SMG-11 and a nitro cell that can all completely change how you and your team plays the round, which is why I would put him in must pick. Now before I move on, I'm going to describe the Void category. The Void is basically an operator where I don't really know where to put anywhere else. They have their uses, but I wouldn't really recommend playing them at all. They don't need to be reworked. They're not situational. They're not broken. They're not a must pick. They're not even okay. They just kind of exist, and nobody really plays them unless they have like a very, very specific reason for playing them. That being said, I'm going to put Fuze in the Void. Here's why. Fuze, yes, can now go through reinforcements, but when Fuze fuses through reinforcements, it makes a very, very loud sound for a very long amount of time, and attackers can easily just shoot his gadget off of a reinforced wall, off of a barricade, off of any single door that they want to, off of any wall that they need to, and it's completely useless. He does bring one of the best weapons in the game, the AK. He also brings hard breaching charges, and he brings soft breaching charges, so there are certain strats where you could use him, but honestly, there's just better people to play, and he doesn't quite need a rework. He just kinda exists. Next is going to be Ela, which I'm going to stick in the broken category. I stuck her in the broken category last tier list before they nerfed her shotgun, and I'm still sticking with that. I think Ela's gadget is completely broken. I think her shotgun, even with a reduced 10 damage, is extremely broken still, just because of the fire rate and the extended barrel and the red dot that you can put on it, and the range that it has because of that extended barrel and red dot. So I think her shotgun completely broken. Her AR has a crazy amount of damage, fire rate, ammo count, everything. Her stuns, not to mention, they hinder you from hearing, from seeing, from using any of your gadgets, your fire rate, your movement speed. I think they made it to where your movement speed isn't affected anymore. I'm not sure about that, but her stuns are amazing. You can throw them anywhere. They have a crazy amount of range, and overall, she is completely broken. Anytime Ela is played, I want to break my fucking keyboard on my skull and kill myself. So Ela, extremely, 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 extremely broken. And honestly, I think she needs another type of nerf to get her settled down. Iana, I'm going to put in must pick. Iana is by far the best attacking operator for getting frags and for solo queuing. She brings really, really good weapons with her ARX. She brings a Gaunt 6, which can destroy any single piece of defender utility that you want it to, anything that's bulletproof, deployable shields. It can make holes in soft walls, and is honestly just really, really versatile. And then she also brings 2 frag grenades, which you can get kills with, you can play vertically, you can get any single piece of utility that you want out of the game. So the Gaunt 6 and the frag grenades can destroy up to a total of 3 bulletproof gadgets on the defender side. And then not to mention her special ability, her clone, which has an infinite amount of droning, and plus the 2 drones that you get on top of that. She overall is just amazing with her gun and the amount of utility that she brings. Next, I'm going to put Finka in the must-pick category for the exact same reason that Iana's in the must-pick category. She has that Gon 6, she has 2 frag grenades, she has a really, really good LMG, she has the ability to give her teammate a bunch of buffs for a short amount of time, 3 times. She has the ability to revive herself, she has the ability to revive all of her teammates, and overall is really, really versatile and great if you want to play a fragger just like Iana is. Next, I'm going to talk about Aruni. Before, I put her in situational, I'm pretty sure. If not, I put her in good, and I'm going to stick by that. Aruni is one of those operators that you can put on a lot of sites and it be extremely viable. Her guns are extremely good. The gates that she provides waste a lot of attacker utility and time, and she can bring barbed wire or a bulletproof cam, which both have their uses on certain sites. She's not situational because honestly, I can't think of a single site where you can't use her, and overall, I think she's pretty good. Now, for all of the defenders that deny walls from being opened, I'm gonna put in the must pick category Cade, Bandit, Mute, all must picks, because like I said, for almost every single site in the game of Rainbow Six Siege, there's going to be a wall that needs to be opened for the attackers to get into the objective. So having somebody that completely denies that, like Bandit or Cade, is a must pick. If your teammate picks Bandit or Cade every single round, you're not really going to complain. It's one of the most vital operators that you're going to bring, and their guns and secondary utility are amazing as well. Next, I'm going to talk about Twitch. For her, I'm sticking her in the good category. Her Twitch drones can now jump. They have an infinite amount of tasers on a 3 taser cooldown. She starts off with a normal drone in the prep phase and then gets 2 Twitch drones after the prep phase is over. And now that attacker repick is a thing, you know just when to bring her, so you're not bringing her uselessly, and every single time you bring her, she's going to be useful. She has arguably the best attacker gun in the game, with a high fire rate, high ammo count, high damage, and somewhat easy to control recoil. Next, I'm going to talk about Zero. Zero, I'm going to stick in the good category. I think he's extremely underrated and one of the best attackers that you can bring on the flex role on maps that are extremely big. So he's good on maps like Bank, he's good on maps like Theme Park, he's good on maps like Chalet, where there's just a lot of open space that you can hide your tiny little cameras inside of the building. He brings 4 cameras, each with a taser on it, just like Twitch's taser, that can deny any single piece of defender utility that has electronics in it, just like Twitch, just like IQ. And they recently buffed the amount of time it takes to get on your camera after you shoot it, as well as it being able to go through 2 surfaces at once, with you being able to flip his camera. So not only does it function as a camera, but it functions as a gadget that allows you to get the wall open. So I think he is very, very good, as well as him bringing 2 hard breaching charges. So I think overall he's very good, and you should honestly start playing Zero more often. Next, I'm going to put Wamai in the good category. Not necessarily the must pick category, as you can pick Jager a lot more than you can pick Wamai. Wamai brings okay weapons. His discs are good for getting any single piece of attacker utility, but Jager has an infinite amount of recharges on the ADS, while Wamai only has 5 of his discs that have 1 use. So Wamai isn't a must pick, but he's still really, really good, and nobody would really complain if you brought him every single round. Cav, I'm going to put in the rework category. She's really only good if you're getting interrogations. Her guns are shit, her ability is shit, and overall, you can be playing roamers that bring a lot more utility to your team than playing a Cav. Before I continue, I just want to say that over 90% of my viewers are not subscribed. I post educational Rainbow Six Siege content every Tuesday and Friday, as well as shorts almost every single day. So if you want to see that, please subscribe to my channel. It would mean a lot to me. Next, I'm going to talk about Monty. Monty is good if you are a good Monty player, but if you're new to the game or you're just bad at playing Monty, he's only okay. He creates a bulletproof shield that you can see out of, that you can completely block any sort of bullets, utility, etc., that your teammates can hide behind, or that you could hide behind or plant behind, etc. So Monty is pretty good. That's all I have to say about that. Blitz is, if there was a category between the Void and needs rework, I'd put him there, but honestly, he just needs a rework. There's always going to be better players. If you like the blind effect, play Ying, play anybody with flashes. If you like the shield effect, play Fuze, play Monty, play Osa. There are just so many operators that you can play that are better than him, that provide what he provides, but better. So there really is no reason to pick Blitz, and honestly, he just needs to be reworked. Next is going to be IQ. Now before, I think she was good, but because of attacker repick, there's always going to be an option that's better than IQ for certain situations. And the reason that you'd pick IQ is because either Thatcher and Mav were both banned, or you didn't bring a Twitch, and you were kind of walking into the site blindly with no information. But now that attacker repick is a thing, you can bring somebody with more niche habits that provide a lot more utility than she does, and there honestly is just better operators to pick than her. Next, we have Doc and Rook. Doc and Rook really are just okay. They provide some sort of utility to the team, but there's always going to be a better alternative, which is Thunderbird. Thunderbird provides more healing and more overall HP than Rook or Doc ever could, and you can be dead and still provide this to your team, as opposed to Doc needing to be alive. With that being said, I'm going to put Thunderbird in good. She's not a must pick, as there are other operators that you could bring, but she allows you to play a lot more aggressively, and she allows you to go into a lot more gunfights because of that healing that she provides. Next, we're going to talk about Warden. He's not situational because there's never a set in stone situation where you're going to want to use him, but if they're bringing Blitz, if they're bringing Ying, if they're bringing 9 flashes and 2 grenades to get the wall open, having a Warden is a really, really good idea. So there are certain situations where you want to play him, but overall he's pretty useless other than that, and you can always bring somebody else to counter flashes, like Jager, like Wamai, so I personally would just never play him. Next, let's talk about Amaru. Amaru I'm actually going to put in situational. She was in the void for me last tier list, but there are certain situations where you can have a 5-stack team and bring her and her be really useful, like going through hatches whenever there's already pressure being applied to defenders and they're distracted, and then you go in and get some free kills. Just rushing into certain windows and trying to get kills isn't really viable with her, but there are actually certain strategies that are good with her, so I'm putting her in the situational category. With soft destruction in general, with shotguns being buffed, I'm going to put Buck in the must pick category. I think I put him in good last time as opposed to Sledge being a must pick because they effectively do the same job, but Sledge does it a lot more efficiently, and he has 2 frag grenades. But with shotguns affecting soft breachable walls a lot more and from a greater distance, Buck is actually really good, and he has 2 hard breaching charges as opposed to Sledge not having that. So depending on the situation, you can actually flex between Sledge and Buck for what your team needs. Next is going to be Ashe, which I'm going to put in the okay category. What made her good was having 3 flashes, 3 projectile soft breaching gadgets, and a really good gun, and now they took all of that away, so there's really no reason to play Ashe anymore. She only has 2 breaching charges, she doesn't have flash grenades, she has Claymore now, and her gun is extremely hard to control. With that being said, if you want a really good gun, you can always pick Iana, you can always pick Finka, you can always pick anybody with an LMG. If you want 2 soft breaching charges that are at a range, you can just play Zofia. If you want flashes, you can play anybody else with flashes, so literally there is 0 reason to pick Ashe ever. But she's not completely useless, so that's why I'm sticking her in the okay category. Next is going to be Zofia, which is just Ashe but a little bit better, so I'm going to stick her in good. She has an amazing LMG, so perfect for her role as a fragger. She also has 2 ranged soft breaching gadgets, and she has 2 stuns. And then she brings 3 more soft breaching gadgets as a secondary gadget, or she can bring a Claymore. So overall, just really, really well-rounded if you want to get into the fragging role, but not quite as good as Iana or Finka for that fragging role. Next, I'm going to talk about Gridlock. I think Gridlock is okay. I did put her in the void in my last tier list, but honestly, there are certain maps that are good with her, and her gadget isn't completely useless. She completely shuts off a large area of the map if you don't want to get flanked, and is really, really good for post denial or rotate denial, but it can easily be shot out. With this being said, when it's shot out, it's an extremely good piece of information getter. Once they start shooting your Gridlock spikes, you know exactly where they are, and you can easily just turn around and shoot them, just like Nomad's air jabs. Speaking of Nomad, I'm going to put her in good. She is arguably the best flank watcher in the game. She completely prevents runouts and is really good for post plants. I did a Nomad guide that I'll put in the top right here if you want to learn how to play her, and she brings really, really good guns. Next, I'm going to talk about Dokkaebi. Dokkaebi is good. Second to Jackal in roam clearing, and she can hack any single sort of camera on the defender side. So whenever somebody brings a Valk when she's not banned, because of how broken she is, the attackers now get that broken advantage of having Valk cams if you end up roam clearing and doing your job. Her DMR is extremely good, her secondary guns are extremely good, and overall, if you're able to secure that entry kill on the roamer, you have the round pretty much laid out for you. I'm thinking about doing a Dokkaebi guide, so let me know if you want to see that down below. I do enjoy playing her a lot, and I do think she's extremely underrated. Next, I'm going to put Nøkk in the Void category. She's not really good, but she's not really in a needs rework kind of category. She just kind of exists there. I think people play her wrong most of the time. They kind of just sneak in and try to not get hit by cams. But what I think you should personally be doing is playing that entry frag rate role, getting a pick, and then using your ability to get out and rotate to somewhere else to then get another pick. So that's personally how I play her, and I find a lot of success in that. But even then, if you want to get that frag, playing anybody else is really better. So I don't really find a good use for her. Next, I'm going to put Frost in the situational category. She does have maps that are really, really good for her, like Cafe. But the higher up you go in the rankings, people are just able to look at her Frost mats more, and with attacker repick and droning, she isn't all that useful. And you want to only be putting Frost mats in really unconventional and uncommon spots to be able to get those downs with her. Now, talking about Jackal, I think he is a must-pick operator. Borderline broken, to be honest, but he's banned most of the time in every single ranked game, so you won't actually be playing him a lot. His guns are amazing. He has the best roam clearing mechanic in the game, as he can completely ping anybody as long as he has their footprints. He has a secondary shotgun, which opens up a lot of versatility for strats, verticality, making rotates for yourself and the attacking team, and honestly is just really, really good. Next, I'm going to talk about Lion. I think he's in the void for me. Some argue that he's okay, and some argue that he's good if you know how to play him. But I don't really see him being used a lot because you can just counter him by sitting still. And using him to roam clear isn't viable because all the roamer has to do is sit still. Using him on any anchoring players isn't good because all they have to do is sit still. The only really viable way to use him is for post plant because it just wastes time for the defenders whenever they're trying to defuse the bomb. And there's always going to be better operators to play with better guns, so that's why I stuck him in the void. Next, let's talk about Pulse. I think Pulse is good. His weapons are okay, but they can be good if you stick vertical grip and extended barrel on it. And now with all of the sights, it's a lot easier to get kills with it. He provides a crazy amount of information. With that nitro cell paired up, you can get some easy kills vertically. And overall, he can lead you into a position where you know where the attackers are pushing from constantly, and you can get kills, or your teammates can get kills based upon that. Next, I'm going to put Lesion in the good category. He has an easy to use gun for how good it is. His traps are really hard to spot and just very, very annoying to go against. And he provides impacts or a bulletproof camera depending on what site you're going to. So overall, just very well-rounded and extremely good to use if you're new to the game and you want to get into the flex role. Next, I'm going to talk about Ying. I think Ying is good. Ying is good if you know how to play her and can be extremely annoying if they don't have a Jager or a Wamai set up to where you're pushing. And now with attacker repick, if you see they have a Warden, if you see they have a Jager, if you see they have a Wamai, you can go around them or just completely switch off of her if you need to. And with her hard reaching charges and LMG paired up with that, I think she's extremely good, but not a must pick. Next, going into Vigil, I'm going to put him in good. There are other roamers that roam and provide a lot more utility to your team and do the same job as Vigil, but Vigil has a great gun and is extremely easy to use, and therefore I'm putting him in the good category. Next is going to be Maestro. Now, if there was a category between must pick and good, I'd put him there, but for now I'm going to put him in must pick. A good Maestro player is going to be one of the most annoying defenders you'll go up against. He has an amazing and easy to use LMG, he brings impacts and barbed wire, also he brings a bailiff. So there's a lot of strategizing that you can do there with the bailiff and your Maestro cams that are bulletproof that you can shoot any attacker gadget with. And honestly, he is extremely, extremely viable on any site that you bring him to. Now I'm going to talk about Alibi. Alibi I actually think is good. Now the reason for this is because overall, she does her job in any site that you bring her to. She has a really good gun if you know how to control it, and has an extremely high skill ceiling that I don't think has yet to be touched. Next, I'm going to talk about Clash. Now, this is a really complicated subject because Clash overall is actually good, but she's only good in certain situations, and that situation can change to only make her okay. So I'm going to try to do my best to explain this. Personally, out of all three of these categories, I'm going to put her in good. And I know this is going to make people upset, but hear me out. If they're rushing you, if they're extremely aggressive, if you throw on a Clash, you are going to waste so much time and be so annoying, especially if you're a good Clash player, that bringing her is always going to be viable. I know people don't like Clash because she's annoying, and picking her is considered a throw pick, but if you actually know what you're doing, just like I said with Monty, she can be extremely, extremely powerful. Next, I'm going to put Mozzie in good. Like I said, there are better roamers that do what Vigil does, but better with a good amount of guns, and Mozzie's it. He completely denies being droned if you want to use his Mozzie pests in that way. So no reason to bring Vigil. He brings amazing guns, just like Vigil does. So again, no reason to bring Vigil. He can turn the drones that he uses and gets into cameras. And he gets 3 of them, just like Valk does, and he can stick them outside for 10 seconds and drive them away, just like Echo can. So he's very, very versatile, but you only want to bring him if you have a certain strat set up in mind, and the amount of playstyles that you can use him with are very, very flexible. So I think Mozzie is pretty good. Next, let's talk about Oryx. I think Oryx is okay. People think that he's good on certain maps, like Consulate, where there's a lot of hatches, but if you really want to roam and go from floor to floor, there's always just gonna be better roamers. I'm sorry, man. He brings a good gun and a bailiff, I'll give him that, but other than that, he's really not all that useful. Cool, he can make rotates at a fraction of his health. Cool, he can jump over hatches, but that's literally all he has going for him. And if you're playing him just for that fact, you can literally roam with anybody else. Next, let's talk about Melusi. Melusi, I think, is okay. Maybe at the top of okay, I'll put her there, but she has a really, really good gun, but they nerfed her gadget to where it opens up a lot faster, making attackers able to shoot it. But I don't want to put her anything below okay because she does still provide a large amount of information to where the attackers are pushing. And if you put her gadget in places where they can't actually shoot her gadget without being shot by someone else, you can use her in ways that are really, really effective. So I don't think she's bad, but I think she's okay. I'm going to put Flores in situational. This is why. Flores isn't good for every site because in a lot of maps and a lot of sites you can just shoot his drones, but on the sites that you do bring him, you want to bring him on sites where there's going to be a lot of defender utility that needs to be destroyed so that you can push. A really good example of this would be Hookah and Coastline, where you know for a fact they're going to bring a deployable shield and a lot of barbed wire. He has 4 drones that can completely mitigate that. You can put his drones through the vents on Cool Vibe stairs or an Aqua and get a free kill there, maybe. But using his drones to get kills or do anything other than breaking defender utility is not really good, and he's just a really, really good attacker repick option if you want to bring him for certain situations. Next, I'm going to put Thorn in the okay category. She has a pretty good gun, but unless you're pairing up her gadget with somebody else's gadget, her gadget is pretty useless. You find yourself getting a lot more Kapkan kills than you would Thorn kills, and honestly, if you want to bring what she provides to the table, there are better operators that do the exact same job. Next, I'm going to talk about Osa. I think Osa is good, borderline must pick, but there's a lot of counters to her and she's really only good on certain sites, so I'm just going to stick her in good. Next is going to be Goyo. I think Goyo is good. I love the rework, contrary to what I said in my video where I reacted to his rework, which I'll link right up here. But Goyo brings an amazing weapon. He brings 4 plant denial options, push denial options. The fire lasts a crazy amount of time, but he doesn't get the explosive damage like he used to. Even with that though, you can put his canisters in a lot more places than you used to be able to put his canisters, so for that reason I think he is actually very, very viable. Lastly, I'm going to put Azami. Now, I didn't think too highly of Azami when I thought she was leaked because I thought there were too many counters to her, but there are only too many counters to her if you don't know how to play her. I actually made a video where I taught you how to play her correctly and how she could be broken if you knew how to play her, which I'll link top right here. But because of that, if you know how to play her, she is broken, completely game changing, and I see her getting banned a lot in the future. If you want to know why, again, check out that Azami video. With that being said, that's pretty much it. As you can see, the hat is off. The reason the hat's off is because one of my videos recently blew up to like 1K views. I think it's my first video that's ever gotten 1,000 views that hasn't been like a YouTube short, and it got like 36, maybe 40 likes on it. So we absolutely crushed it on that video. Thank you so much for the support on that. And honestly, if I didn't show my hair soon, it was gonna regrow and the bit was gonna be over. So I thought y'all deserved to see it. With that being said, that's gonna be it for today's video. Don't forget to sub, like the video if you liked it, dislike the video if you dislike it, and see you in the next one.